Welcome back to Console Crapshoot, where we spin a wheel to play a random video game on original hardware. Carl appears to be all business today. He doesn't appear to be messing around this week, and it's making me nervous, quite frankly. Oh, we've got the Nintendo 64 again. Last week's game was not so good, but it could have been much, much worse. I'm curious to see how we do this time with 296 games left on this wheel. Whoa, jackpot, that's a really good one. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, I loved this game. But that's two N64 games in a row that start with the letter S. I'm starting to think that this random wheel business is, bullshit. But I'll take it. Another expansion pack supported game here. I think it added a higher resolution mode, which is actually worth doing on this one. And my saved game from back in the day is still here. Dick. So I really hope one day we get to play the sequel to this game, Rogue Leader, on the GameCube. That is one of my favorite games of all time. I think that one still holds up. I could still enjoy that game to this day, play it from beginning to end. This one is really, really good, but it's a product of its time. It's got a lot of limitations, doesn't hold up quite as well, but it lays the groundwork for that masterpiece. And for an N64 game, this is pretty incredible. It looks really, really good. The draw distance is still an issue, as always, with the N64, but I've seen much worse. But the gameplay holds up. The gameplay is really good still. I like this. I do tend to use the Retro Fighters Brawler 64 wireless controller, lately when I play N64 games, just out of convenience, but my brain got really confused. I was trying to use that controller with this game. I don't know if it's because of how the game was designed, or maybe just I am remembering how I used to play the game, but I couldn't play it on that controller. I had to switch and use the original N64 controller. Then it started feeling a lot more natural. But tons of cinematics, tons of voice acting in this game, and the challenge system is really addicting. Like, they made it so that it's not too hard to beat the game. You can get through the game, but it's really challenging to get gold medals across the board. It's kind of set up so that like each mission has certain thresholds that you have to meet to get medals, bronze, silver, and gold, and you kind of have to play the mission over and over and over again and have it memorized exactly where enemies pop out and exactly what to do in order to get those gold medals, because you are on a timer, your accuracy has to be perfect. You basically have to run the mission flawlessly, which isn't a prerequisite to beating the game. Like I said, you can just go through it if you want. Looks like I was able to get a lot of them. I was able to get 9 gold medals in this game, but there was a lot more to get, and at some point I gave up, probably when Rogue Leader came out. There's also a bunch of cool little unlockables and codes that you can put in. You can unlock a TIE Fighter, the Millennium Falcon, and there was a code to turn the V-Wing into like a Buick or something. I remember that being hilarious. But this game does a great job of, keeping it fresh and changing it up. You think Star Wars, you tend to think of space and blackness. I don't think this game has a single mission in space. It's all on planets, and all the planets feel pretty different, which is pretty impressive considering the graphical limitations. Not only does every planet feel fresh and different from the other ones, but the mission types, there's escort missions, and there's attacking target missions, and rescue missions, and all kinds of stuff that surprisingly doesn't get repetitive at all. But I feel like all these years later, going back and playing it, I almost appreciate it even more. At the time, you're like, oh, N64 is great, this game is great. But now looking back, knowing what we know, how limited the N64 was, it really took talented game designers and developers to make something this good and this nuanced and can hold up this well with that limited hardware set that they had. You could get away with repetitive gameplay, game design back then, because it was a new thing. This game was a novelty. It's just exciting. I'm playing a Star Wars game on a new system. So you didn't have to go as deep and as impressive as this game is, but they did. So kudos to Factor 5. This is, it's a shame that studio stopped making games, because this is quite impressive. I was a little rusty. There is an art form here to following targets and nailing them from a distance. I used to have it down pat. It was really hard to do, and I'm having a hard time doing it again. But despite that, I'm having a great time. I mean, the music is so good in this game. The sound design in general is so good in these games. It's so fun, and I remember the feeling of like freedom and flying around a planet when this game came out. When people kind of talk junk about the N64, they say, oh, there's only a couple of good games, and they only list a couple of, your Mario 64, your Zelda games, and your Smash Brothers and stuff. This game tends to be overlooked. People don't really mention it. Same with the sequel on the GameCube. I think they don't get enough enough credit. And this is a showcase game for this system. And it was something that, PlayStation fans, PlayStation 1 friends, they had a lot of good games that the N64 didn't have, but they were jealous of this one. Those friends would come over to play this. And I think not enough is said about that. So maybe we should go cut to the rating for Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64. Yeah, I love it. For something that was born out of a bonus stage, I think it was just like the first stage of a game called Shadows of the Empire on the N64. It was a launch game. There was just one stage in that game. Mostly it was a run and gun kind of adventure action shooter, but there was one stage that had you in a snowspeeder on Hoth, and that was the genesis of this game. That's what inspired this game to be made. They could have phoned it in. People would have bought it, but this is fantastic. They went above and beyond. They went the extra mile here. So much variety, 15 planets, at least just in the regular missions, and then there's some bonus stuff. There was something so fresh and vibrant about this game. I don't know, man. It's one of the best N64 games. This is the first time I think I can't make my mind up. I don't know why this is so hard.
You stupid animal! Do you know why?
I'm just going to say it. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. But this is a 4 of the highest order. And maybe the formula for this one doesn't quite add up to Masterpiece, but it was almost there, and it came along on the GameCube. I'll probably change my mind after I'm done editing this. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, either way, it's a good score. Great game. So happy we got to play it. And hopefully we don't get another Nintendo 64 game that starts with S next week. I guess I wouldn't be mad at Star Fox or Super Smash Brothers, but those are too close to Superman 64, and I do not want to play that. But okay, that was fun. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens next week. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.